Welcome to Texarkana College's Genzabar eLearning LMS Training Course Lesson 6. In this lesson, you will learn how to create a test using the test builder located within the Genzabar eLearning platform. With your course open, you want to go over to the coursework portlet on the sidebar and click it. And then when that comes up, you want to click on the Add an Assignment. And then we're going to add an online test format. This is for all types of online testing, from pop quizzes to final exams. We are going to build a test. So I'll click on the online test format, and then it comes up to a screen that's very similar to the one, well, it's exactly the way what you saw when you worked on part of your uploading your zip file when you set up your test. So we're going to name the test or quiz, and I'm going to call this a chapter quiz, chapter 1 quiz. And then what unit do I want that quiz to fall under? And I'll just leave it under unit 1. And what type is this? It is a chapter quiz. If it was a different type, like if it was my final, I would click on those. But it's a chapter quiz. I put in a due date. I'll just make that due here on the 31st. I can hide the assignment out of the calendar feed if I want to by clicking on that little checkbox. I can also accept late submissions until a specific time. If I do, I'll check this box and fill out the date and the time. I want to open the quiz or the test. I'm going to go ahead and put it on yesterday so it'll actually show up when I go to show you an example. So I'll do that for March the 9th. I'll put a time that I want it due by on. I can display it to the students before it's open. If I do that, that way if it's on a later date, at least the students would be able to see that there is a test there and it's a chapter 1 quiz. They will not be able to get in and take the test until this open date and time. It's going to be a graded assignment. I can't do anything to that. And when do I want the students to see their grade? As soon as the grade is available, or as soon as it's available and the due date has passed. Now, if you're going to let them take multiple attempts at a quiz or a test, then you want to make sure that you put it in as soon as the grade is available. Otherwise, the student won't be able to see what grade they made the first time they took it and decide whether or not they want to take it again. So if you're going to give them that option, just leave as soon as the grade is available. And then I can show the class average to all the students if I would like. Now on my assignment options in step 2, click on that. When do I want them to be able to view their test? And there's a drop down box and you just pick your choice. I typically, since this is a test that's going to be graded within the eLearn system, I usually say as soon as it's fully graded they can see their test. The correct answers, I mean, they can see their test, but you might not want them to see the correct answers to the ones they missed yet. So you get a choice of when do you want them to see the correct answers. And after the due date, or any time that they review the test, or never. And again, if you're letting them retake a test, you probably want to put never in there. But I'll leave anytime they can. I'll put anytime they can review the test, and then I can turn off all the test review at a specific date if I wish. I can put a time limit on the quiz or the test in minutes, hours, or days. Pagination. It is really best if you go ahead and click 1 question per page or 5 questions per page, because Genzabar times you out pretty quickly. And if you're staying on the same page, it does not recognize that you're still actually doing something on the test. So I'm always wary and I put 1 question per page. I can shuffle sections, which would creating a random order for each student. I can lock the students out if they leave the test screen. I typically want to do that. If I'm going to allow extra credit, some of my questions might be for extra credit. I can let them make a grade above a perfect score. So if my maximum score is 100, they can make above 100. Under security on the password, if you're giving the test in the testing center or with an external proctor, you probably want to put a password in it. Jenzabar does not let you put a specific computer address in like Moodle did. So you can't just set it up, to be taken on any computer in the testing center. It does not allow you to do that. You would have to provide the testing center or your proctor with the password. And as in lesson 5, we're not going to discuss the lockdown browser at this time, but you can require that the students use the Jenzabar lockdown browser when they take the test. You can also require that they use it when they are reviewing their test. You can allow retakes. I typically don't, so I leave it at 0, but you can allow them to retake it 1 time, 2 times, 3 times, 4 times, or unlimited times. Now, if I put the fact that they could retake a test in there, I might want to put a waiting period. So they can't just, okay, I take this test, I see I made a bad grade, and I immediately want to go back in and take it. I can put a waiting period before they can get back in, and that waiting period can be in minutes, hours, or days. Now, I do want them to be able to see their grade if I'm letting them retake it each time. Otherwise, they won't know whether or not they want to retake it. If they made a 95, they might not want to retake it. So I need to click, anytime I let them retake the test, I need to click this little box in front of Show in Progress Grade Updates. And then if I'm letting them retake a test, I get a choice here of what type of grade I want to take on it. I can do an average of all the times that they have taken the test, or I can choose highest grade received or last grade received. I'm not going to let them retake it on this example, so that really doesn't matter what's there. Now, step 3 on my instructions and files, it's optional, but I could put a little short introduction to the assignment. I typically don't. They know it's a test. I can put some specific instructions on the test. Like if I've got some questions that they've got to read a document before they can answer the questions, I could put in here, on questions 6 through 10, be sure to read the attached file before answering the questions. And I could add a file down here at the bottom. But for this example, I will just hit save my new assignment. And when I do that, it takes me back to the course creator, or not the course creator, the test creator. And you notice across the top, I didn't put a time limit. I opened it yesterday. I've got it closed on the 31st of March. I can preview the test. There's nothing in the test yet, and it'll tell you that. Just telling me the server, there was nothing in the test because I have not added any questions. Now what I want to do is to start adding questions. So I'll click on add a question. And the question label, if you remember in lesson 5, when we imported those questions, it labeled them Q1, Q2, Q3. You don't have to use the Q beside it, but I typically will label my questions just by a number, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I will type in the question text, but if I scroll down a little bit, I see down here on the answer type, my text is going to depend on what type of question I'm asking. And I can choose, ask a multiple choice question. I can put an equation in. I can make it an essay question. I can make it a matching question, an ordering question, a short answer question, or a true false question. Those are the only choices that eLearn allows you to put in. So I'll just leave it as a multiple choice question here, and I'll make up a question. Who was the first president of the United States? And then if it's multiple choice, these are my choices. So I'll type in some answers. Washington, Adams, Jefferson, or Madison. And then for the correct answer, you would put a little check mark out in front of the correct answer. I can add some feedback over here, hey, great, you got it right, or oops, sorry. If I have a question that's multiple choice that the answer is all the above or none of the above, I will click these boxes here. I could add feedbacks there as well. If I want to randomize the options that they get, and I typically will, I'll click on the little box in front of randomize. If I want to give partial credit, I can do that. If I want to, on this limit selections, this is where you would have like multiple correct answers, and you would actually tell the students, hey, there are two correct answers. And unless you put a check mark in two boxes, it will not let you submit that question. So I'm finished with this little short multiple choice. So I see something I forgot up here. On my point value, again, I just typically use one for each question. Unless if it's a matching question, I might have it count 4 points if I just have four matching. But for just a basic question, I'll just do a 1 point value. And then again, I can preview my question down here. And there's my question. And this is what the students would see on their page. Now, if I want to do some automatic feedback, this is totally optional here, because especially if you put feedback up here. But this is automatic feedback. For all students, regardless of a response, you could put a feedback in for correct responses, for incorrect responses. I typically don't do that. So I want to save and add another question now, because I'm going to add 3 questions to this little quiz. And this is my question 2. And I actually want to make this, I'm going to go ahead and click the point value in there, what I'm thinking. Actually, let's make this a multiple choice that has 4 questions. I'm not going to make it an extra credit question, so I'll leave that unchecked. So I want to make this a matching question, and that's going to change my options here. So I'm going to type in some matching, and I'm going to play World War II here and ask some questions on World War II. Enola Gay and Dwight Eisenhower, and throw me a date in there. And my correct answers that I want over here: the Enola Gay bomber that dropped atomic bomb on Hiroshima. Dwight Eisenhower, commander of Allied forces in Europe. September the 1st, 1931, Germany invades Poland. And Big Boy is the name of the atomic bomb drop on Hiroshima. If I want to have more matching options, I can do that by add more matching pairs, and that will give me that option. And down here at the bottom on these unmatched distractors, you can throw in some distractors for these up here. So if I wanted to throw in Tokyo Roses nickname. Another distractor I might have, date of Japanese surrender. I might throw in another one, commander of Pacific Fleet. So I can keep going until I'm finished. I can randomize my options, my objects, which are over on the left. I can also randomize my matches, which would be on the right. Again, I've got 4 questions here, and that's why I put the point value at 4. They get 1 point for every one they get correct. I could do some filter matches and some partial credit. Let's see what the question looks like for the student. And it's got my 4 objects over here that I want to match to. So Dwight Eisenhower, and then I would select, and then there's all my choices to select from. I would check bomber that dropped the atomic bomb, date of Japanese surrender. I'll do it again, but I can choose, or the student could choose whatever answers they wanted to. So I will add one more question, so I'll save and add another. My question label is going to be, this is my 3rd question, and I'm going to make this a true-false question. So I'll just say Japan surrendered before Germany in World War II. And I know that's a 1-point question. I know that's a true false. So I'll click true false. Here's where I would put in my correct answer. It's defaulted to true, but I know that's false, so I'll put in false. I can preview the question if I wish. There's what the student would see. And I'm going to say I am through adding all my questions, different types. So I'll click on save and return. So my point values are in. Ooh, I forgot to save something because I got a multiple. My matching question I did not save, but I should have. If I did, it would have shown up in there. But that's how you would fill in the question. Just add a question and add the type of question. Now, if I go back and look at my coursework page, you see my Chapter 1 quiz. It's an online quiz. It's open, and it tells me that the due date is March the 31st. If I want to change any of that, I can go back and change what I've got. If I wanted to delete that assignment, I could click delete the assignment, and it would delete the entire assignment. So let's go back now and see what would an actual student see when they got ready to take the test. And again, I have entered. I'm going to go back and click on the beginning of my course here. I'm going to go back and log myself in as a student by the name of student and show you what it looks like on the student end of it. Sometimes just clicking on the view as student doesn't show you everything, so, or it won't let you complete all the tasks that you want to. So I'm logging in as an actual student here. Password was incorrect. Try it now. There we go. So I'm logged in as a student, named test student. I'll click on student. And I know I was in P13 for my test. And here I am, and I'm ready to go to, if I was in the course organizer, and I was in Unit 1, there's my Chapter 1 quiz. I could go to it this way, or I could go up here to coursework and click on it, and there's my Chapter 1 quiz, and it tells me it's open. So I would click on it. It tells me that it's open, it can be taken, it's required, it's scored out of 2 points because I didn't save my multiple choice one. It can only be taken one time, but it has no time limit. So I'm ready to start the chapter quiz. So I click on it. And there's my question one. And if you had 100 questions, it would be numbered 100, 1 to 100 up at the top and 1 to 100 at the bottom. All the student has to do, and you can see that my answers were rearranged here. The first president of the United States, I'll say it was Washington. Now again, you want to tell the students when in your syllabus, when you are taking tests, be sure to click the Save Progress up here after each question. You just saw that it automatically saved a question, but it might not. Sometimes I don't understand why it doesn't. But if they go ahead and click Save Progress after each question, it doesn't take that long for them. If you think that it takes too much time, then add a little time to your test. Then they're ready to go to the next question. So I'll go to question two. Japan surrendered before Germany in World War II. Well, I know that that's false, but I'm going to put true on there. And then on the last question of the test, it'll tell the student that this is the end of the test. They can go back and do any reviewing. And I'm going to go ahead and click my Save Progress on that one. They can go back and do any reviewing. If they want to go back to other questions, they can. If they want to change their answer, say I had that down here as Adams, oh no, it was Washington, so I want to put a check mark in it. You might want to remind them also that they have to uncheck the other one that they wanted to change from. Otherwise, it'll show up as two answers and it'll count it wrong. So I went ahead and checked the Washington, so I can do everything that I want to do because I haven't submitted the test. I go back to the last question. I'm happy as a student, so I'll put Submit this chapter quiz. And wham, it graded it. I intentionally missed one of them. There were only 2 questions. I made a 50 on it. Now, as a student, I can add a comment that the instructor could see. There's some other things that I could look at. The full history that shows me when I opened the quiz, when it started, when I finished it, when it was graded. The student can see that just like the instructor can. They can't do any changes in it. It tells me how long I took to take the test. It's got my responses. If I want to expand all of my responses, I can do that, or review the whole chapter quiz on one page. I only had 2 questions. It shows me the one I got wrong, the one I got right. If I want to expand the question and the response, I can see. And it'll tell me that that's incorrect. So the student can see quite a bit. So let's go back. I want to log back in as me again into the class. And I'm in the right course. So now if I go to the grade book, I should see a student's grade. I had already taken that other test that we created in lesson 5 also. I can view the full grade book. There's my chapter quiz that I just took. I made an F on it, only 50, but I made an 80 on that test that we did in lesson 6 with the 10 questions. And there's my final average, which is a summary. If I have lots of chapter quizzes or whatever, they show up, I just click on the plus sign and it will list all my chapter quizzes out. For each one of your topics, you can do that. If I want to collapse it back, I can do that. And then if I want to export this to Excel and have a paper copy of it, I can export to Excel. I can open it. And it should be bringing it up in an Excel document. And it did. It was over on my other screen, but there it shows, and it would have all your students, the chapter quizzes that they had, That's the final exam that I took in lesson 6. So if you wanted to have a hard copy, that's all you would have to do is to print off or export it to Excel, and then you could print it off or save that file on your computer or flash drive. So you could have a hard copy of the test book. God forbid anything happened to the Jinzabar eLearn system. But just to be safe, that might be a good idea. So that's all there is to creating a quiz within the Jinzabar eLearn system. Now I'm going to go back to coursework. I'm going to go back and open up the assignment over here. And then I want to go to the test builder. And then here again is where I can, if I have a lot of questions and I want to create this test to where it just pulls a certain number of questions out of a larger group, I do that just like we did in lesson 5. I click on the edit that's out beside the name. I can type some instructions in. I click on the pool, and then it'll ask me how many questions I want to give, and then how many points for each question. I can put a time limit. I can make the section extra credit if I want to. Usually I don't mess with the time limit and the extra credit, and just hit save this screen or save this section. So that's how you would take that test and make it pull at random a certain number of questions from a larger number of questions. And that's the end of lesson 6.